Okie dokie. Let's get started. You guys ready? My neighbor just started chipping ice like 5 seconds ago. So if you can hear ice chipping throughout this video, that's what it is. Okay, we have 40 minutes or so together to go over all of this. And then at the end, if anyone has questions, just type them into the chat box and I would love to take a look at them. So let's start with a question. When you think about change, what happens in your body? What happens in your mind? Pretend like you just got the news that a brand new boss is coming in at your job after you've worked under the same person you love for 10 plus years. Or pretend your very best friend just let you know she's going to be moving out of state. Or pretend you've decided you're going to start going to this new class every Thursday and you won't know anyone there. Usually with change, we tense up a bit in our bodies. We resist the change in our minds. We kind of push up against it. We resist the reality of it, right? We sometimes start to imagine that the change is going to have this dramatic effect on our lives. It will either be dramatically better or dramatically worse. Either way, it's super dramatic, right? So when it comes to change, our brains are simultaneously craving it and also wired to avoid it at all costs. And the reason is change feels wildly threatening to our survival, even if it's like taking a new class or getting a new boss. It feels threatening in our bodies. This is because we are primitive creatures. We have to be aware of this. We have to acknowledge that we have this primitive wiring that's developed over hundreds of years as our species evolved, human beings evolved. And this wiring is working in tandem with the new part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, the part that makes us human. It's really smart, it's really advanced, and it can see and imagine ourselves as the best case version. It can also imagine the worst, so just be aware of that too. This is the part that craves the change. It wants it. It propels us to change and grow. But in order to become that best version of ourselves, it requires a shitload of change, constant change, rapid change, terrifying change, amazing change. In the past, whenever it came to change for human beings, things moved really slow, like a turtle's pace. You might see one tiny change per generation. And even that was like, whoa, slow down, don't go so fast. But now, when we look at the world we live in today, we can see how technology and science has changed and advanced at an insanely fast rate. Like just in my lifetime, I'm 30, 3 decades of change. That is insane. Look at this computer I'm looking at. Like, what? It's rapid, it's incredibly powerful, and it seems to be happening everywhere around us, except in ourselves, except in the humans, right? Somehow we seem to be moving backwards, not forward. If we look at our political climate of the world, what are we doing? We've got the war again. What is this, 1920? We've got people banning books. Like, what? This is backwards motion, not forwards. So why are humans moving backwards? Why aren't we all changing as fast as the technology is? Why aren't we keeping up with the pace of the rest of life when I know we all want to be? Why can't we upgrade ourselves as often and as efficiently as the iPhone? That would be cool. Just like bloop, bloop, bloop. I'm new, right? And the reason is our primitive wiring is working against us changing. It's preventing it. like really trying to prevent it. So in this masterclass, we're going to be covering 3 major things that are so important to know. We're going to find out why our primitive wiring believes it's not safe to change, why we must feel safe before we can change. You have to make that happen, and how to start creating that safety right now so change doesn't have to take so long and feel so difficult. So let's get started. I first want to get even more specific with what I mean by change, because that word, like all words, is pretty subjective. When I'm talking about human beings changing, I don't just mean changing a couple of our habits, cleaning them up a bit. I mean changing and transforming how we operate in every single area of our life. Reimagining how we live from the micro to the macro, from the individual to the collective, all of it. Changing ourselves on our level of consciousness. This is the level of thought, friends. So when we do this, we can change how we show up on all the levels. But people don't normally start with the outlook. They don't go to their thoughts, right? They don't address them. They just start by trying to change their behavior alone. They say, okay, I want to start taking care of my body. I want to eat less sugar. I want to have super healthy relationships. I want to create financial freedom. We all know these are like good things, right? Logically, intellectually. So why do they start to feel impossible to follow through on when they're just simple behaviors, right? In order to create these specific results, all we have to do is take some specific action. Like that's what we've been taught, right? Just move your body, eat an extra vegetable instead of, a potato. Just go to that gym class. Work that job and, invest the money you make. But then we hit a certain point and wonder, if I'm taking the right action, why do I still feel like this? Why do I feel like I'm somehow failing or behind or not there yet? Why don't I feel better about this new action I'm trying to create? And it's because we're waiting for our new habits to come rescue us from the way we feel inside. But our habits don't create our feelings. Never, 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 never. Our thoughts do. That's why we can feel so crazy. We see someone else taking the exact same action we're taking. And we're like, why is it working so well for them and not for me? We'll start to compare ourselves. We assume we are somehow deeply flawed and broken. The reason changing behavior alone doesn't work is because you aren't addressing the source of the problem, which is our thinking, right? We have to really understand what we are thinking and believing about the changes we want to make. Most of the time we're thinking these changes aren't safe, they're threatening, and we're not even aware that that thought is happening and standing in our way. Anything that is not familiar to us gets grouped into the same category as unsafe. This is what our brain does, whether we like it or not. It's a primitive trait, and therefore subconsciously, we will continue sabotaging the changes we want to make until we learn how to address our thinking about it. Have an itch. These healthy, desired changes are all going against our primitive wiring, which is saying this change better be pain-free, right? It better not be painful at all. It better be pleasurable, give me dopamine or give me death. And it better not use any extra energy or any energy at all, actually. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. This, my friends, is why it does not feel safe for us to change. This exact thing going on. This is why we don't change faster or more often, because this is the formula for change. It's not pleasurable, there is pain involved, and it uses a ton of our energy. And in fact, I have like a hair on my nose, sorry. Any gratification we do get from change is so delayed. Like any pleasure we get is going to be so delayed and held out that by the time you actually get to it, you forgot it was even part of it. You have to feel so uncomfortable while you're changing. You have to feel all the repressed emotions that have been hiding out, which are going to be shame, guilt, fear, doubt. That's all part of this process. Extremely uncomfortable. And so is using our energy. Change always orders an extra side of energy, more energy than our primitive wiring is willing to supply. And that's why the primitive brain makes us feel extra sleepy and tired when we decide to set some new goals. When we say, we're going to go on a health kick, and then you've never felt more fatigued. It's because you feel fatigued by your own ambition. It's not because you're lazy, but because that ambition you're wanting to create doesn't feel safe because it's not familiar. Change goes directly against this wiring that we all have in our skull. No one is exempt from it. We all have this. So feel better about that. And so we have to be more aware of it because we can start to feel so discouraged without the awareness that this is very normal, very common. It's actually healthy that our brain does this. So we'll start to think like, damn, what's wrong with me? I want this so bad. Why am I not able to make it happen? And then like the sweet little precious children we are, we make two completely unrelated things mean something is wrong with us. Why can't I do this? I must be the only one who can't figure this out. Why am I so stupid? What is wrong with me? And that's too unbearable a conversation for us to face. So instead of moving forward and diving into that question, we avoid it at all costs. We bail, we go right back to our safe, familiar lives, and we forego the change that we really want, that we're craving. We instead choose to resign. We just tap out. We're like, oh, too much. See you later. And that's why the change you seek will be severely delayed, or it will never happen at all if you continue to operate under this subconscious belief system. If you continue to let it control you without your awareness, change ain't coming. If you continue to interpret the unfamiliarity of change and growth as threatening, you're going to stay stuck in places you don't want to be. You're going to stay confused for a very long time. You're going to be overwhelmed by your goals. The goals aren't overwhelming you. This primitive wiring is overwhelming you. The goals are easy. They're math. The drama is you stopping yourself because you're not aware your brain is doing this. We'll feel so fatigued by the fear and the shame that we're trying to keep at bay. That's exhausting, my friends. Instead, we could just let all that fear and shame come, process it out in 90 seconds, call it good, move forward. But we won't do that because we're too afraid to face it because we don't understand what's going on here. We don't understand it's not personal, right? It's just evolution. So that's all that's happening here. Not familiar? Our brain says, not safe. I'm not already used to it. I don't know what's coming. Sorry, not doing it. And this is all happening on a thought level, right? This isn't a behavior level. This is in our minds. This is the sentences in our brain. It's not happening because something's wrong with you. Something went wrong in your past and now you're doomed. That's not what that means. It's only not happening because you are having thoughts about change that make you feel unsafe, that stop you from growing. The good news is we can change our thoughts. We have the power to do that. We can change long-held beliefs, even ones we've had our whole lives, even beliefs that have spanned our species evolution, like the belief that unfamiliar means unsafe. Because beliefs are just thoughts that we have practiced over and over. I know our thoughts can change because I've done it again and again and again. And I have yet to self-destruct or explode on sight unseen because of it. I do it all the time and no one's stopping me. No one's arresting me. We have permission to do this. Thoughts are a matter of choice. Every single thought is a tiny little decision you're making. And sometimes our brain offers us thoughts and we don't realize we have a choice in the matter. We don't realize that there are other thought options available to us in that moment. Our brain says, you'll never be the kind of person that's healthy and successful and can change. And instead of questioning this and finding out what else might be available for us to believe, we subconsciously choose this shitty ass thought that is only popping up because it doesn't want us to change. It's like, not safe, don't go there. It's a part of our lazy, old, tired ass, primitive thought process, right? It's not you, it's the human evolution of our brain. And it's not serving you or your growth. And yet we still choose it when we don't have awareness. So we choose to feel it. We choose to believe it and then feel shitty. Why do we choose to believe optional thoughts that we don't have to believe? I sure as hell wouldn't want to go out and change if what I was currently believing was all of my effort, all of my struggles wouldn't amount to anything in the end. I'd still be unworthy. I'd still be a piece of shit. No, I don't want to go change when that's what I'm believing. I wouldn't want to change if I was believing that doing this would cause me suffering and I would get no reward in the end. I'll skip it. No thanks, right? When this is what we're thinking about change, of course we're not going to go change. Of course we're going to sabotage our growth. It doesn't feel safe to change when our thoughts about change are that depressing and bleak. When our thoughts suggest something is wrong with us and we should give up, we can't muster up the courage to change. We feel broken, we feel flawed. Doing something difficult seems impossible. And some of you out there, instead of just like feeling crappy about yourselves and resting while you feel broken and sad, instead you go out and you push yourself. You say, I don't care if change feels hard and impossible. I'm going to make you do it because you're worthless and you better do something. Trying to force ourselves to change when we don't feel safe, when we don't trust ourselves, when we haven't created the belief that we can change, that we are capable, that's just plain cruel. It is abusive to force yourself into change when you aren't mentally ready or feeling safe within yourself throughout that process. Forcing yourself to change, even though you feel terrified, unworthy, unsafe, that is how trauma is born. And you have become your own traumatizer. This takes huge ownership. This takes intense accountability. And that is your job to do. Even if someone else traumatized you and created these habits, it's no longer their business to fix. It is yours. I used to traumatize myself in this way. Now I couldn't imagine being that cruel to me. Now I know how to get to the source of my problems instead of trying to force myself before I'm ready. I just go to my thoughts. I go to what I'm thinking about it, go to what I'm believing, and what I might not realize I'm believing under the surface. So now I'm never forcing change. I am effortlessly changing. It is easy because of the beliefs I have decided on to fuel this growth. I got to decide that. That's cool. We must feel safe mentally and emotionally before we can start taking any action to change our external life. Does that make sense? The change has to begin internally. I know you've probably heard similar words 100 times, but I want you to hear it differently today. I want it to actually sink in. You have to change the way you think and feel on the inside of you before you will ever be able to change how you show up in your life on the outside of you. Safety is created by your thoughts alone. We must feel safe mentally. We must think thoughts that make us feel safe, choose them, believe in them before we can change. And so we must understand what safe means to us on a very deep level and on all layers. There's so many layers. There's our intellectual layer, our emotional layer, our subconscious layer, which is intense, and of course, our primitive layer. You'll have to brainstorm your own thoughts about what safe means to you on all levels, because that's unique to your story. I can't know that for you. I can't tell you what safe means for you. You have to be the one to understand it. But I can tell you what safe means to the primitive mind left unquestioned. This is what it'll deduce. To the primitive mind, laziness is considered far safer than movement or action because stagnancy feels safer and more familiar to us than progress. Abusing alcohol or any kind of substance is considered safer than sobriety because feeling out of our minds, drunk or high, that feels safer and more familiar to us than being present in our minds and feeling our feelings. Procrastination is considered safer than getting things done in plenty of time and getting them done well because stress and tension feel safer to us than ease and responsibility. Gossip, drama, that's considered safer than compassion and forgiveness because feelings like envy and jealousy, they feel safer and more familiar than respect and non-judgment. Wasting our valuable time is considered safer than being highly productive and efficient with our time because mediocrity and playing small in your life feels safer and more familiar than wild success. Blaming our problems on the people we love, the people closest to us, is considered safer than taking ownership of our shit because victimhood feels safer and more familiar to us than empowerment. I feel like I just energetically kicked all of you in the nuts, and I am not sorry about it because what we have been choosing unconsciously as the safe option has been working directly against what we all really want. And we have to stop doing this. We have to become aware of what we are doing, what we are choosing. Safe to our primitive brain does not equal logical, reasonable, or justified. We have to recognize that and then change it on the thought level. I'm not saying we should all go get lobotomies. We don't need to remove our brain. No, the solution I'm suggesting is to discover everything that safe might mean to you, and then you decide to redefine it. You create a new definition of safe that serves you and your growth and your pace and what you want. And it doesn't keep you from making the changes you want to make. You get to rethink it entirely in a way where you can believe and feel you are safe right now, while also navigating into unfamiliar new territory. So how is it done? This is how it's done. Be willing to feel your emotions, be willing to manage your thinking, and catch any blind spots with a professional, coach, therapist, whatever you want to use. That is how you change while creating your own safety. That's it. That's how you grow. That's how you create all the things you want. And you can have it all. You are capable. You just have to be willing to do those 3 things. That's a short ass list. You can figure it out. You can do all 3. I know you can. It is simple. I've done it. But I promise you, doing these things regularly does not feel good. It goes against this primitive wiring all the time. So let's talk about each one. This is the how, right? I'm telling you how we create safety so change doesn't have to take forever. So listen up. My dog is barking. Let's start with regulating emotions. Do you know what that means? Your body's emotions cannot and will not be lied to. I love this about our emotions because our mouths can lie all fucking day, right? They can be like, we're fine. They can pretend to be happy, but our bodies, our emotions, our energy never lies. It cannot. And I think that's fucking magical. It's impossible for your emotions to lie. So you could tell yourself all day, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. But if you don't believe it, that shit won't work. That's why affirmations can create more frustration than you had before you started saying affirmations, because you can bullshit other people all day long, but you can't bullshit yourself. You have to respect yourself enough to stop trying to lie to yourself about how you really feel. So regulating our emotions is an entire skill set. And here in our country, we haven't been taught it yet, right? This is brand new information. And it's about as important as learning how to wipe your ass or bathe yourself. When you're not doing those things right, you stink. It's awful. It's disgusting. And that's how our emotional regulation is right now. It's lacking. It's unsanitary. We have to learn how to identify emotions, how to actually feel them in our body, how to recognize where they come from, why, what they're saying, and take complete ownership and responsibility for them every single time. Here's what we do now. We don't know how to identify them. We don't know how to feel them. We resist them, avoid them, react to them, and we don't take responsibility for any of them. We blame all of our emotions, even our good ones, even our love, even our joy and excitement. We blame it on other things. We have to stop doing that. Taking responsibility for the good and the bad emotions, knowing we create them. Your cute dog isn't creating your feelings of love. You are. Take ownership of that. If you don't know how to feel your feelings in your body, you need to learn how, like now. Stop waiting to learn this. Talk to me after this if you want. Next, we've got managing our thinking. Again, this is an entire skill set most of us are lacking. We are just identifying and believing in every thought that pops up in our brain and assuming it's true. So it requires a lot of practice and help to change this habit. We have become lazy thinkers, unconscious thinkers. We're taking everything we learned that was wired into us as children, and we're just rinsing and repeating it. If we keep repeating it, we'll never change, right? We're never going to create what we want in the future. If you want to create what you want in the future, you have to manage your thinking. You have to step in and see what's going on in there. If you haven't picked up by now, our brains have a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things going on at once, and they can be really destructive if they aren't managed, if they aren't supervised. Most of us have an unsupervised brain, unsupervised thoughts, and it wastes a lot of time. So that's where we need to build awareness. Why am I thinking this thought? Where did it come from? What is it really trying to communicate? Do I want to keep choosing and believing this thought? How is it serving me? Is there another way I could think about this? What are my options? Asking ourselves questions like these all the damn time. Constantly. Thought comes up, question it. Is that true? Is this thought absolutely true? Addressing ourselves with understanding and compassion, not harsh criticism and judgment. Creating dialogue within our own brains. This can be considered reparenting yourself. This can be considered managing your brain. Whatever word you want to use to describe it, I can think of it as just a dialogue within myself, that it feels safe to go back and forth in there. So I can make decisions working with these parts of me instead of trying to work against them and keep them in the dark. You can't do that. You can't leave half of yourself behind and move forward. You have to work together with this primitive part with this part of you that feels broken and shameful. And you have to be compassionate there, understanding, have a safe dialogue within so you can take risks and grow in a way that offers us everything we want. We will not grow or be able to make really difficult decisions, like what should I think instead, when we're being an asshole to ourselves. Who do you currently feel safe around? Think of a person. Why do you feel safe around them? What is it about them? What makes them feel so safe to you? Usually it's because there's trust, right? There's kindness. There's no expectations that that person has for you. There's this assurance that you're respected here. You matter to this person. You're not afraid this person will attack you emotionally or physically. You know you won't have to use extra energy to be on guard or defend yourself with this person. And here's the deal. Most of us don't trust ourselves. We're not kind to ourselves. We put super unrealistic expectations. We're disrespectful. We attack ourselves constantly in our mind with rude, mean thoughts. We're totally scared of ourselves. So I'm going to say it again. The problem has never been that we can't change. It's been that we don't feel safe enough to change within ourselves. Someone else outside of you cannot make us feel safe for us, right? That's not their job. I can't do it for you. Your mama can't do it. Your children, your dog, they can't do it. You are the only one who can address your thoughts. You're the only one who has access to them. Therefore, it is your job to create the safety you need to feel. Some of y'all have been neglecting, abusing, disrespecting yourself by ignoring your thinking, repressing your feelings, and keeping yourself from what you want. And you expect you to just trust you unconditionally after you've displayed that kind of behavior? You just expect change easily with no hardship? You want you to give you everything when you haven't done anything to help yourself feel safer. If someone else was being that way to you, you wouldn't trust them as far as you could throw them. You wouldn't bet on them. You wouldn't trust what they said. You'd be like, she's full of shit. She's lying. And here we are lying to ourselves about what's really going on. So the way to address safety is not to go outside of ourselves and get to work, taking action, doing the things. It's to go within. It's to find out how we think, how we feel, and to start supervising all of that, regulating it for ourselves, becoming the authority over our own minds and bodies. And that should start with a big fat apology. I know that's how I had to start. A genuine apology that you really feel. Like, this is what it sounded like for me. Like, I was like, damn, girl, did not mean to do you like that. I didn't realize. You didn't deserve that kind of treatment. I wasn't consciously meaning to hurt you, but that's all I knew. That's what I was taught, right? I didn't have awareness. I didn't know why I was doing that. I see now that I love and appreciate you. You're so important to me. Your goals are important to me. I want to do better for you because I know and realize you are worthy of better. I don't know who you've been waiting for an apology from in your life. Maybe a couple of people. But I can guarantee you the only apology you will ever need is this one, from you to yourself right now. So stop waiting for someone outside of you to do this work for you. It's none of their damn business. They don't even need to know about it. This is an inside job. So my clients are like, okay, I want to do the things. Let's set them. More money. I want incredible relationships without having to change your partner, you know? I want to set huge goals for my life. I want to believe in myself. And I'm like, okay, let's start with how you treat yourself. And they're like, good. Yeah. Next. And I'm like, okay, what's your opinion of yourself? And they're like, it's pretty good. And I just know they're lying. I know they're full of lies. This is a lie. You cannot lie to me. I can read your energy, right? Energy doesn't lie. A person that has done this work will come undone with emotion, with unconditional love, with forgiveness for themselves when they are asked this question. What is your opinion of you? They will be celebrating themselves. They'll be making cool shit happen in their life already. They won't even have to tell you. They'll show you. They cry, they bawl when someone asks what they think of themselves because they feel pride and love for themselves and what they have overcome. Those emotions will overwhelm them with love. I promise you, someone that has a good relationship with themselves, someone that treats themselves incredibly well, will have a lot more to say when asked, how do you treat yourself? How do you prioritize yourself? My existence felt like this huge sham before I did this work. I was right where all of you are. I hated myself, loathed entirely. I just felt ashamed because I made these things outside of me mean something was wrong with me. Two unrelated things, and it meant I was broken. And so I totally felt like, they're going to find me out any day now. Someone is punking me, right? They all know I'm unworthy. And I'm the one that's not in on it yet. So I had to learn how to love myself again. This does not happen overnight. It happens one thought at a time, one feeling at a time, one tiny situation at a time, and shifting it from there. To all of my perfectionists, I see you. You want to have one solution and fix the whole system in a day. You want overnight change. And if it takes longer than that, you're out. You don't want to bother participating. If it's not as easy as that, sorry, I'm going to keep suffering over here and hating myself. So hear me. It's these little tiny moments, these little sentences in your mind, these little decisions you're making, choosing to believe that thought or choosing to question it. They are what make the biggest changes happen in your life. Changing one thought a day will shift the entire trajectory of your life. You might not see a change in a day or a week or a month, but a year from now, 10 years from now, that's huge. So don't be in a rush if you have a perfectionist mindset. Feeling safe just means you love yourself and you have your back. That's all I mean by that. I don't mean you have to hide in your PJs, surrounded by teddy bears, before you can go do something. I mean, you have to talk to yourself in a way where you're saying, I got you, girl. We're in this together. If we fail, we're going to get through it. If we succeed, I still got your back. That's what safe means. It's a narrative, a dialogue, a decision you're making in how you will treat yourself through unfamiliar territory. When your primitive brain feels threatened, how are you going to handle that? How are you going to help yourself? Are you going to shame yourself and say, why are you making me suffer? You're the worst. Go away. Or are you going to say, I got you. I totally understand why you feel that. And it's okay. And we're going to keep moving forward. This is huge. When you get this down, you create whatever you want. And it gets so much easier the more you go forward. So again, how do we do this? We regulate our emotions. We manage our thinking, and we get help to catch our blind spots because we can't do this all on our own. Let's be real. It's easy. You are right where you need to be, my friend. Everything is working out for you. I promise. Even if it feels like you shouldn't be where you are, you should be. Try and consider believing that because love is always working in your favor. It's always got your back. And if it's not working, then that's not love. You're just confused about what that is. And this is why us coaches exist. This is why we are a booming industry. We have the most important job in the world. because we remove everything standing in your way, everything standing in between you and love, you and growth, you and who you know you could be. Okay, that's all I got for you. Wow, that was really good timing. Right on the ball. That's because I manage my mind, guys. Okay. Well, yeah, reach out if you guys are interested. If you have any questions, I would love to help you with this, and have a wonderful rest of your day, my friends. See you next time.